Okay, so after all this reflecting, the next empire that was going to come is the Greeks. Now with every empire, they get stronger and stronger. So the Greeks are going to conquer the Israelites, not in a military sense so much as a cultural sense, because they had all these really cool gods. I mean, think about Hercules and Athena and Zeus and Apollo and all these guys, right? So the people that were kind of disillusioned with Yahweh are very attracted to these gods. But not all of them. Some of them fight zealously to defend the name of Yahweh. And they fight back against the Greeks. Now what's going to happen is one day there's a Greek offering a sacrifice to a Greek god in a Jewish temple. So this Israelite, Mattathias, kills the Greek. And that kicks off the Maccabean revolution, where they fight back against the Greeks. And they actually do a pretty good job fighting the Greeks. So good that they're actually able to establish and grow into a dynasty known as the Hasmonean Dynasty. And this dynasty is just about as large, if not larger, than back in the days of King David. There's a problem, though. And the problem is this. There's no more prophets at this time. The last prophet, Malachi, promised that there would be a reappearance of the prophet Elijah, a voice crying out in the wilderness, and then everything goes quiet. Now we do have the prophet Daniel written at this time, talking as if something was going on back in the time of the Babylonian Empire, where King Nebuchadnezzar is trying to force the Israelites to worship the false gods. But there's a parallel, because that's exactly what's going on with the Greek kings trying to force their hand in making the Israelites worship false gods. And this is another example of apocalyptic literature, where you take personages or events from the past to symbolize what's going on in the present and predict what's going to happen in the future. Remember I told you Ezekiel with the valley of dry bones, that's apocalyptic because it has a symbolism of the end times. Same thing happens in Daniel. There's going to be God's armies fighting his enemies' armies, and there's going to be a son of man appearing in the clouds, that all power and dominion will be given to him. This mysterious figure. So they know that person must be the deliverer, the Messiah. So maybe it wasn't King Cyrus. Maybe there's another deliverer that's really going to be in the line of David. So they look forward to that. And they fight against the Greeks, and they refuse to worship their gods. There's 3 men that walk bravely into a fire instead of worshiping a false god. Daniel is thrown to the lions, but God doesn't let them open their mouths. They're defending God. But like I said, they do get influenced by the Greeks culturally. For example, think about also Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, the great philosophers, right? The idea of the soul has a lot of influence on on Jewish religion. So they start to understand, maybe we can clarify now the whole thing with the bosom of Abraham and Sheol. Think of Hades also, this place of torment. Well, maybe when they're separated from God, there's a place of torment, and hate, and Sheol is not just a shadowy underworld, but there's suffering going on. So this is all happening without prophets. There's no more prophets. So the Hasmonean Dynasty, that's God's people now, they're the Hasmonean Dynasty. They're more a political state than anything else. They're not even like a spiritual people like they used to be. So as a reaction to this, there's 4 Jewish factions that develop. You've got the scribes, which become the Pharisees. You've got the priests, they used to do the animal sacrifices, and they're the Sadducees. You've got the Essenes, which are kind of like, for lack of a better way of putting it, they're like Jewish monks. They go off into the desert and they wait for the Messiah. And then you've got the Zealots that stay at home fighting against the Greeks and whatever other enemies come, because the next ones that come is the biggest, baddest empire of them all. You know who I'm talking about? The Romans. They make all the other empires look like a joke. They're so powerful that they allow Israel to continue its cute little religion to kind of assimilate all the different religions into the Roman Empire. But they do so, they appoint like these puppet kings. They're Jewish kings, but they're really under the control of Rome. And if that doesn't work, they send in a Roman procurator or a governor to clean up the house. One of those puppet kings was Herod. And Herod was very jealous of his throne, so he didn't want any talk of any messiahs appearing. So that's why he did that thing with the slaughter of the innocents. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. That's the New Testament. We're still wedged right now between the testaments. Daniel in the lion's den, defending me just like his friends, refusing idols, singing in the flames. Nebuchadnezzar couldn't understand the zeal with which these young boys sang. With joyful noise these boys declared my name. The boys declared my name. Courageous family of Maccabees, picking up a little Greek philosophy and a Jewish Hasmonean Dynasty. But in the days without a prophecy, political machinery was all that's left, and they just couldn't see me. And in the days without a prophecy, between the testaments a history of zealots and centurions in a rage. The procurators in Caesar's rings put false messiahs under puppet kings. The Roman occupation set the stage. Philosophy said we had a soul. The underworld burned into Sheol for those who don't make it to the bosom of Abraham. The Pharisees and the Sadducees argued over Moses and eternity. The Essenes watched, but they just couldn't see me. And in the days without a prophecy, between the testaments a history of zealots and centurions in a rage. The procurators in Caesar's rings put false messiahs under puppet kings. The Roman occupation set the stage. Now in the days without a prophecy, between the testaments a history of zealots and centurions in a rage. The procurators in Caesar's rings put false messiahs under puppet kings. The Roman occupation set the stage. The Roman occupation set the stage. The Roman occupation set the stage.